It's Friday, my fantasy fanatics, and we have a jam-packed episode of your daily 30-minute source for fantasy hockey on the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Special guests and goalies galore. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, my fantasy fanatics. Welcome back inside the lab to the latest episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, where we get you in and out in 30 minutes every single day, so you are armed with the tools to dominate your leagues. Shout out to the everydayers who continue to hold us down and make us their first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Mr. Roden, we're going to talk about these Vegas Golden Knights, updates on Mark Stone and Adin Hill, which will be impacting your fantasy squads. And then we have to roll right into a whole bunch of goalie chatter. There are some really good, under-the-radar, perhaps backup goaltenders that are in the limelight right now and serving value. And we got to talk about them because you know how I feel about that goaltending roster. And we have a very special guest coming up at the end of the show for our big-time betting segment, Josh Inglis of Covers.com. He's got some futures bets. He's going to break down Friday night's board. And we really are going to get this paper today, my friends. Over to you, Mr. Roden. First and foremost, Mark Stone, LTIR, once again, he's still expected to be week to week. What's your take here? Because this Vegas Golden Knights team, including Mark Stone, off to a very good start.
What else is new? This is just, this is just repeating every single year at this point with Mark Stone hitting the LTIR just a little bit earlier this time. Usually it happens around February before the trade deadline where they can really work that flexibility in the cap, but this time happens early on in the season. These are two major injuries to the Vegas Golden Knights, who still have yet to lose a game in regulation. 5-0-2 on the season. Mark Stone is out, I believe, with a wrist injury, like you just said, on a week-to-week basis, but he does hit the LTR, and they have some pretty significant key pieces on the injury list right now. Alex Pietrangelo, of course, is obviously out for the entire year. Noah Hannafin has been day-to-day. Brett Howden's been day-to-day. And now Mark Stone and Adin Hill. So I feel like the first regulation loss is coming sooner rather than later for the Vegas Golden Knights. But this is obviously a tough loss for all fantasy GMs out there because Mark Stone was right there. I believe he was top 3 in point production so far this season. 2 goals, 9 assists, I believe, or he's been firing those primary
up to 11 assists.
11 assists on the season for Mark Stone. So he's been a crucial part. He's off to a great start, but he obviously hits the IR plus spot on your fantasy rosters right now and out for a week-to-week basis with that wrist injury.
Two things that immediately come to mind when I think about this team when it's not Mark Stone, and I've kind of been doing this a lot lately, Steele, to really try and take in the picture for what's going on fantasy-wise is take a look at how good Pavel Dorofeyev has looked. We know that this team has still got enough talent to get by. That second line now looks like Hurdle, Dorofeyev, and Mitch Marner, at least after a practice, I believe, or that's what the projected lineup is right now, headed into the weekend. I look at Brandon Saad as a potentially nice little fantasy ad over the weekend, now up on that top line with Jack Eichel and Barbashev. I don't think this really slows the team down too much. I think they still run through Jack Eichel and Mitch Marner now, and I do think the back end is still good enough to carry a guy like Akira Schmid. However, before we even get to goalies, that's another player that is an immediate must-add if you're looking for goaltending love. Akira Schmid, we covered what's going on with Carter Hart. He's not even an option for another 6 weeks. So don't even consider it right now. This is his crease. 4-0 this year for Schmid, 2.57 goals against, 900 save percentage. He's had a little bit of a taste in his career in the NHL, right? 52 games. He's been pretty good, Steele. Even if you're not buying into him overall, right now he's a must-add. And there are a lot of other backup goaltenders serving a ton of value that we'll get to in a minute. I'll turn it back over to you. Obviously, those are the fantasy angles. I really like Saad up on the top line. Schmid's going to get a ton of starts here because I don't even know who their third string is. I'd have to take a look at this here. Someone named Carl Lindbaum. So I'm pretty sure Schmid's going to be the guy to take a look at here. This team, I don't think slows down, though. They're going to be a wagon all year long.
Yeah, they really are. And the goaltending hasn't been spectacular for Vegas. The offense has just been carrying the load all season so far this year. When you look at both Hill and Schmid's statistics so far this year, Aiden Hill is 1-0-2. He's played in 5 games, but he's 1-0-2, a 2.73 goals against average, and 888 save percentage. And then Schmid is 4-0-0, but he also has a below 900 save percentage. So the offensive side of things for Vegas has really been carrying them early on in the season. I feel like at some point it is going to bite them on the backside at some point. But like you just said, Aiden Hill being out on a week-to-week basis with the lower body injury, they don't have a ton of depth as Lindbaum as the backup goaltender right now. So Schmid will be the number one guy moving forward and getting a lot of the workload here, just like we could probably see, like we have been seeing with Jake Allen. You could probably say the same thing about Dan Vladar, and Jacob Dobish of the Montreal Canadiens has looked fantastic so far this season, while Sam Montembeault has struggled from time to time.
The Montreal Canadiens are quickly becoming a very attractive team to not only watch, but to invest in fantasy-wise. And I know that the hype is hype, and it's Montreal, and they love to get excited early. But just from a pure offensive fantasy standpoint, you're even looking at players like, we talked a lot about Zach Bolduc headed into the season. Zach Bolduc's off to a great start. You've got players like Demidov, Kapanen, Newhook, Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky. Someone was talking smack about Slavkovsky on the channel. I understand it's only 3 goals, but he's looked great. And there is a ton of fantasy value here. However, if we're talking about backup goalies or goalies that aren't getting enough love that are showing value, I picked up Jacob Dobish in a couple of leagues. It's already panned out. It's a beautiful look. We talked about a few times already, Steele. The goaltending market has been messy to start. Goalies that you were counting on to do well haven't exactly been doing their thing. There's been a ton of injuries. There's been poor play. Don't even get me started on the goalies in Edmonton. So this is just one of those angles when we were talking about what to do for this Friday episode, aside from talking to Josh, which I'm excited to do. You got to be paying extra close attention to goaltending because the 0G strategy holds you true for the draft. But once it's game on, you got to just pay attention every single night, and that's a fact. 3-0-0 for Dobish. He has, what I've seen, Steele, 931 save percentage, but I just wanted to throw out this. Sorry, I'm reading Jake Allen's numbers. I'm really sorry, everybody. 4-0 for Dobish, 950 save percentage, but what I did want to throw out there, and now I do, trust me, have the right tab open. He's beat the Nashville Predators, the Buffalo Sabres, the Calgary Flames. The only good team was the Detroit Red Wings. And that was the first game of the year, and the Canadiens slapped them around. So does it last all year? I don't know. But right now, you ride that hot hand definitely on a team like the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, you really do. He has been phenomenal for them. 4 games in, only 6 goals allowed, a 950 save percentage, a 1.47 goals against average. And that's the type of goalie you got to pick up and keep your eyes peeled on on the waiver wire. For me personally, it has been a never-ending carousel of goaltenders going through my team right now. I've been holding on to Joseph Wall and UPL. UPL actually was just reactivated. He should be back in the lineup very soon after a short conditioning stint, possibly. I had to go pick up Nico Dawes the other day, which he actually played a really good game against the Minnesota Wild. Darcy Kemper was out for me for a little bit. Aiden Hill's now on the IR. Jacob Markstrom's been on the IR for me. So, I went straight over to Jake Allen, who, again, we'll talk about after the break and alongside Dan Vladar as well. But this is the significance of that 0G strategy is sometimes you get bit. And sometimes you get bit. It doesn't feel good in these situations. And you really got to keep your eyes peeled, especially for those deeper leagues, 16-team leagues. There's not a lot of goalie options anymore on the waiver wire.
Yeah, and I guess it goes both ways in terms of maybe that just makes you even more aware that you were going to have to get creative because like even guys like Sorokin have had their struggles. However, It's finger on the pulse o'clock around here, and that's why you better tap into Sunday's waiver wire special. We'll have all the must-adds for the week. We got Josh Inglis of covers.com coming up for big-time bets. A couple more under-the-radar goalies that you need to be paying attention to that are serving value and playing really good hockey. Excuse me, Mr. Roden. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Rougiet. Let's be real, boys. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. You're tired. It happens to everyone. When it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs that little extra support, and that's where Rougiet comes in. Rougiet.com offers fast, doctor-prescribed treatments for EDs designed to help you stop making excuses and start making those moves. Rougiet makes it easy to get started, and you get connected with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. Visit RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL. They get 15% off your first order. That is RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so they know we sent you. That's important, Steele. Rougiet, stop making excuses and start making power moves. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. You know we love Gametime for all of the events in your area, especially hockey with the season here. Nothing beats being in the rink for those opening games. Let's be real. Getting tickets can be a headache at times between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and of course the prices that jump before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated, but where Gametime comes in, the app that gives you the fans advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Steele and I have used the Gametime app a ton to see those leafers, even though right now it's not so pretty, Steele. We'll continue to hammer the Gametime app. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Roden. Flip, I don't know if you're still feeling the Samuel Urson take because Dan Vladar has been spectacular for Philadelphia so far. And I actually do want to touch on some of their offensive players who are really off to a good start as well. Owen Tippett, wink, wink. But Dan Vladar is really a big surprise to this team right now. 4 games in, he's 3-1-0, a 929 save percentage, and a 1.75 goals against average. So when you look at a guy like Dan Vladar, and I want to pull up his roster percentage on Yahoo right now, where he's currently rostered only at 23%. That is a guy to take advantage of. I mean, this is immediately. Like I said, this has been a season of goalie carousel so far, underperforming goalies that you wouldn't expect, a lot of goalies on the injury. And that's a nice surprise for Rick Tocchet in his first season with the Philadelphia, and just a good start for Philadelphia altogether with a guy providing that in the back end.
Absolutely. And in his career, Steele, like, he doesn't have numbers that jump off the page. Let's be honest.
No.
But he played for some pretty bad Calgary teams there for a couple of years. And I feel like his numbers aren't nearly as indicative of the quality of this goaltender. And I think that's what you're seeing here. I know that's a bold take for a guy with 109 career games under his belt, and he has been a backup. Not maybe, he has been a perennial backup. However, not only has he played solid hockey, the Flyers are looking a little bit better. I'm not going to get overly excited about a 2-1 squeaker win against the Wild and then a 5-2 win against Seattle, but they were very close against Carolina. They beat the Florida Panthers, and before my battery dies here, I will throw it back to you, but the immediate reason why I want to add Dan Vladar, the Ottawa Senators, the Islanders, the Penguins, and the Predators are the Flyers' next 4 opponents. So I might even do this before this episode ends. It's Dan Vladar time, big time. Over to you before this battery dies.
Well, you might be a little slow there on picking up Dan Vladar because he's already taken, at least in one of our listener leagues, casual or competitive. But this is a guy that you want to take advantage of. If there's the opportunity, you have goalies on the IR or goalies just underperforming right now, why not take a swing on a guy who's rostered below 30% and who's played really solid through the first 4 starts of his career with the Philadelphia Flyers? Jake Allen, we've touched on him quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, but it also needs to be mentioned once again. He is also rostered below 40%, 37% to be factual here. That's where his roster percentage is at right now. A 931 save percentage, a 1.91 goals against average. He's 3-0-0 on the season. He's been a great surprise as well, especially with the number one guy going down, Jacob Markstrom, who hasn't had the best start himself in the 3 games he's played. An 845 save percentage, a 3.89 goals against average, still has a winning record of 2-1-0. But nevertheless, Jake Allen, 2 veteran guys, Allen and Markstrom above 35 years old, are getting the job done. And Allen, with a 930 save percentage, has been one of the best goaltenders in the league.
And let's be clear here. Even though this has been an abysmal start for Dougie Hamilton, fantasy-wise, this is a really good blue line. Luke Hughes, Pesci, Siegenthaler, Hamilton, Dillon, and Nemec. That's a very balanced 6. Take fantasy aside. And then when you're talking about depth in the top 9, Hughes, Bratt, Heischier, Mercer, even guys who will be coming, Stefan Nason, Paul Cotter, who have proven things. This is a team that when you have Jack Hughes firing up the middle, this is a really tough unit to stop. And I looked into these offensive numbers, Steele. They're only 2 goals behind the Vegas Golden Knights for the most goals so far this season, and that's what's propelling the value for these goaltenders here. Especially, I know Jake Allen has been a solid backup his whole career, but when you come into a situation thrust in as the number 1 and your team is cooking, that means auto add as well. Markstrom is week to week. He is up there in age as well. They won't be rushing this guy back. Jake Allen is going to serve you a ton of value down the stretch for a team that I also expect, Steele, if they stay healthy. We've spoken about this with the Devils. They will be heard from come the end of the season in the playoffs in that Metro division. I'll just wrap it up with this because I looked at their schedule in terms of just for Allen over the next week. Tough schedule, though. Avalanche back-to-back. They've got the Sharks, Kings, and Ducks, and then the Habs. So there is a number of tough games there. However, I'm still liking Jake Allen. I don't know if I called him Josh Allen a couple of times because I'm Bill's crazy. However, this is a really good spot, whether it's Vladar, whether it's Allen, Dobish. I think there is a bunch of options here that if you need to go fishing on the waiver wire for a goaltender, it's got to be one of those 3.
Those guys are the ones performing right now. And like I said, it is very dry on the waiver wire. So take the opportunity while you can to pick up these players. When we come back after the break, we got 4 games betting breakdown on Friday. We're going to bring you all the winners with our special guest, Josh Inglis, 12 years of experience betting analysis. So we can't wait to bring him on and help us find those Friday winners for all of you out there as well. But first, this episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We love using FanDuel. It gives us so many ways to play, building those parlays, trying the player props, and even following the live lines during the games. It makes watching football every Sunday even more exciting when you've got a little action riding on the games. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. And welcome to the show, our special guest, Josh Inglis of Covers.com, the betting analyst guru. 12 plus years of experience. He's worked with major networks across the network, TSN, NBC, BetMGM Network, so much. He's been with Covers.com since 2019, I believe, and he's going to help us get those Friday winners here. 4 games on the schedule, starting off with the New Jersey Devils and San Jose Sharks. We got Maple Leafs, Sabres, Capitals, Blue Jackets, and Flames, Jets. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today and helping us find those winners. We really do appreciate it. So let's just jump right into it with that first game of the night, New Jersey Devils and San Jose Sharks.
Minus 375 opening.
Yeah.
Maybe the let's start with the shortest favorite in the entire season by far, right? Like we're seeing in the Thursday game, we're seeing Chicago as a plus 250 dog. Tampa Bay, I think Tampa Bay market wise is being priced too well, and Chicago's not being priced well, right? Like you guys know, like let's get a little love for Spencer Knight and
Yeah.
what he's going to. I just bought a bit of his Vesna yesterday just to
Okay.
have just one of those show if he goes. Like no one's beating Henrik right now. He looks locked in, but Spencer Knight's getting the run, and if that team makes the playoffs, right, you got to at least put him in consideration for it. If he goes sub 2, 9-15 save, if he does something around there, sits top 10 and goals saved above expected per 60, something like that, then you're talking. But in this early game, I have no love for betting any favorite at this price in
Yeah.
any hockey game.
Yeah.
Period. Right?
Yeah.
Like I've seen the Leafs at like minus 425, right? Columbus games, if Columbus is on the other of a back-to-back, but we all know that just hockey in general is just a game of bounces, and the variance in the sport just doesn't exist. And San Jose's in a tough spot. Obviously, they got to go to the Rangers, but let's be honest, the Rangers aren't playing great hockey at home either. I think they have one goal in their 4 games. They're 0-4. San Jose, I don't know who they're starting tonight. I didn't look. If it is Askarov,
it is Askarov tonight.
Okay, then they're a little weaker tomorrow. But I mean, plus 275. There's almost a point in betting money lines, which I don't do a ton, where it's just like, yeah, it's gone far enough. And usually plus 250. So I took Chicago today plus 250 because it wasn't the second of a back-to-back. But you're starting to see that. It'd be interesting to see if it goes any shorter, but you have to think plus 275. But then all of a sudden you get the Sharks at 1.5, plus 1.5 at plus money. And I think that's the angle you take.
And this is a team that has just been an absolute punching bag. They've allowed, I believe, the second most shots on net so far this season and the most goals against. So when I look at, so they're actually allowing 34 plus shots in net on net per game. The pick that I'm leaning towards in this one, because there is obviously no way I'm touching the New Jersey Devils for that value, as you mentioned, Josh. I'm actually looking at the Jack Hughes shot prop here. I like it at a plus 5+ shots on net for Jack Hughes. They allow a ton of shots on net. This guy is feeling it. 6+ shots in 3 of his last 4 games. I don't know what you think about this game, Steele, before we move on to the next one. I like the juice there that you're mentioning, Josh, for the Sharks on the road, even though that's a tough back-to-back. I'd go with Jack Hughes, 5+ shots on net, play a player prop, and stay away from the Devils minus far too much.
Yeah, the money line is just not, there's no profit there at minus 350 or whatever it's at right now. And Jack Hughes would be the player I would lean to. I love the 4+ or 5+ shots for Jack Hughes. You know me, Flip. I love the 2+ points in this situation as well, and especially after a hat-trick night against the Toronto Maple Leafs and then following it up with 0 points against the Minnesota Wild. This is a good opportunity to get the 2+ points. Again, we don't have the current odds up because we're recording a day early, but that would be my player prop here in this situation, staying away from the money line, hitting the Jack Hughes player props, or even a guy like Nico Hischier, who's been pretty solid so far this year. Let's get over to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Before we jump over, I would be worried about Hughes just in that second of a back-to-back to see what his usage is, because you saw the Toronto game, like he was getting a ton. Like if he goes 19 plus on the Thursday, will he go sub 18 or something like that? Because the second line's good, and we know that Mercer jumped up to that first power play, so it might be something that you look at with that other line, Mercer for a point if it hasn't plummeted too much, or we see what happens with the power line or power play, because sometimes Luke Hughes can sneak his way up there and you can beat the books to the market if someone does move up there. So right now we got Meyer on PP2, and I think they're kind of going 60-40. We saw the PP2 get first crack at the power play for who was the rookie who scored his first goal the other night for New Jersey. He was on that wing.
Gritsuk?
Yeah, I can't even pronounce it. If you had it,
me neither. Arseny Gritsuk. Sorry, Gritsuk. I think it was him though.
Yeah, but like they got the first crack over the boards on that power play. So power play 2 with Meyer anchoring that is getting a few more looks.
I like it. Josh, when you're taking a look at this Buffalo Sabres, Toronto Maple Leafs game, obviously the Sabres are what the Sabres are, but it's not pretty in Toronto either. Hit me with your take on this situation. I've got an angle that I'm feeling, but to be honest, I think I might stay away from this game altogether with a 10-foot pole.
I'm seeing Toronto minus 125, and I think that will shorten up. This is a home game for Toronto on a Friday night
Mhm.
in Buffalo for people who don't want to pay the price for the Jays tickets. They're going to take the trip over the border.
Hey, go Jays, go, by the way. Let's have a
Yes.
little injunction here. I believe I saw you downtown Toronto. Shout out to you, Josh, soaking up that energy.
Yeah.
Go Jays, go.
And
I
I
hope
made
you
the train
enjoyed
home like a
yourself.
good boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
We pulled that one off.
That's what you call elite level journalism. Tap into our boy Josh. Make sure you're checking out what he does at dovercovers.com. Back over to you, though, Josh. Any angles you're feeling in this one?
Yeah, the lines are in a blender in Toronto just because it's gone the way it's gone. And obviously, Joseph Wall, we don't even know when he's coming back right now. But David Alder reported today at practice. Bobby McMahon, Austin Matthews, William Nylander at the top there. And then
Okay.
Nyes, Tavares, and Michelli on the second line. No Riley at practice, so it will be interesting to see if he does skate tomorrow. And if he doesn't, then you're probably going to have to wait right up until puck drop to see if he's playing. So if he doesn't, all of a sudden you probably get OEL in that power play one spot, and he has markets. I'd be looking for a point if he gets in there. But this should be a good statement game for the Leafs. They're mixing things up.
Yeah, I think
Austin
so.
Matthews taking a hell of a lot of grief right now, and as he should, because they're like, we can't find anybody on your line. Well, guess what? Maybe you should be driving your own line like other people.
Exactly.
I mean, Arturi Lekkonen's out there playing with Nate Mack, and all of a sudden that line's great. Like, you don't need three great guys. Drive your own line, and I don't know. I was playing Would You Rather. I can name 12 guys in the league I'd probably want more than Matthews the last 2 years that we've had him.
Yeah, he's been very passive. I mean, he's not not using his size, he's not using his speed, and Flip and I talked about this on our most recent episode, just ripping into the Leafs after that game against the New Jersey Devils. However, I do have a same game parlay in this spot for the Leafs and Sabres. I would take the Leafs on the money line. They have won the last 5 games against Buffalo. They are, I believe, 7-3-0 in the last 10. So I do favor them. Obviously, it is sort of like a home game for them, for all the Leafs fans going across the border, like you said. I'd also take the Austin Matthews 4+ shots and the Tage Thompson 4+ shots in this situation. Thompson only has 1 goal in the first 7 games through the season, so he is going to be firing the biscuit, and he likes playing against Toronto. So I don't want to go as far as taking the anytime goal from those 2 players because, again, of how passive they've sort of been, not driving that top line, but they are getting shots on net. So again, the current odds aren't out for the player props for shots right now, but that would be the same game parlay for me as the Leafs money line, 4+ shots for both Thompson and Matthews.
Before I turn it back over to Josh, I would say in 29 career regular season games, because I was looking at the 4+ shots on net for Matthews as well, 29 regular season games against Buffalo, he's got 21 goals, 12 assists, and 123 shots on net during those games. That's a little bit of a breakdown to just over 4 per game. I'm feeling pretty comfortable there because what you said, Josh, hits the nail on the head for me. This has got to be a statement game for 34 and for the Leafs. And I think going into Buffalo, you might see really what this team is made of on Friday night. I know it's just early in the season, but the blood's already in the water, if you know what I'm saying, in Toronto.
Buffalo, good. I was on Detroit last night on the Wednesday night game.
Yeah.
And I mean, Detroit was on a rip. Detroit had, I think Gibson was in net. I think Talbot. I think Gibson was in net. But they got everybody back, and they played a really tight game, 2-2 going into the fourth, 1-4-2. They're a team. I mean, like, you look at that third line, like, there's a lot of talent. You got Benson up at the top line. I love Quinn on the third line, Tuck, Zucker. Like, there's lots of veteran presence. It's just a team that's just had to endure so much losing. So losing is just normal to them. And I know as a Leaf fan, Tage Thompson's done things against this team for sure. And if you're ever looking for splits, I know some people think that splits don't really mean something, but in hockey, it means more than anything else. I'd prefer to take a top line center on his shots over at home because you get last change and you get that matchup as opposed to getting matched up the other way around where you're if you get someone like, I remember J-Rob was always one who I was always hesitant to take him on the road because he just sucks at the matchup because he's not the greatest skater. He's not the greatest hockey player, but he takes advantage well of getting those ozone faceoffs that are super valuable.
Most definitely. See, this is why we got to have Josh on more regularly, guys. Like I said, tap into covers.com. Josh has got his finger on the pulse. I don't want to say we're casuals out here by any means, Josh, but you're digging in the trenches and providing these angles that our listeners need to hear. So we appreciate it.
I have
Washington
37 bets for Thursday night's hockey slate.
Oh, wow.
You know what? I'm going to tell my wife that because now I don't feel
please
so
don't.
bad about my previous history when it comes to that. So thank you very much. If I'm sleeping on the couch, I'll send you a DM, Josh. However, Washington into Columbus. To me, and I know a lot of people are going to be taking a look at the Leafs and Sabres. I think this is probably my most exciting game on the slate here. Columbus is an exciting team that scores goals. Washington off to another pretty good start. Any angles you're sniffing around here? A little Metro Division battle here, Josh, on Friday night in Columbus.
Everybody thought that Washington would be the team to regress like last year's Vancouver, but they're kind of proving people wrong. I think PLD might be coming back. He's kind of questionable. And how about Protas? Like, he is a guy that you can just continue to bet even money point prop day in and day out, even if he's on PP2. So he's someone that constantly is just exceeding. And hockey markets are very slow to change in terms of like point production and where guys' roles change. So he's a great spot, but I mean, minus 118 for the Capitals. If you took this game at like, let's say game 65 last year and where everybody was, this would be minus 155, minus 160.
Even more, I could see,
for anybody. But the only thing that does scare me, and there's very few goalies in the league that scare me, but these are the goalies who scare me because they're not, I don't think they're priced in properly. Spencer Knight is one because everybody just thinks Chicago's crap and you can roll all over them, but you can get goalied by Spencer Knight. And Jet Greaves is another one. If Jet Greaves gets that game, that to me, I'm looking at 6.5. I probably don't want to pay the 30 points. I could probably find a way to turn that into even money, but the 6 is probably plus money. Under 6 there. I know jacket games at home are high scoring affairs, but I just don't think this offense is running as hot as it was last year when Sean Monahan was scoring as well as he was. I know Chinnikov is skating again, but he's looking to get out of there, I think, as well.
Steele, any plays on this game for you? I'm staying away from this one as well.
Yeah, I'd most likely stay away from it. If I were to throw a pick out, I'd take the Adam Fantilli anytime point here. He's got 5 through 6 games so far this season. We've kind of been waiting for him to have that, next step in his career, and so far he's off to a great start. However, I would lean to staying away from this one as well.
Add Boone Jenner to it. He correlates to line 2 and PP2. There you go.
We're big Boone Jenner podcast fans here. This is basically the unofficial Boone Jenner podcast. If he wasn't injured all the time, he's a fantasy goat that we like to talk about, fills out peripherals. We don't need to get there, Josh. Let's stick to the meat and potatoes. Thanks again for joining us. One more game here.
Before we get to the other game, how angry are you guys about Yahoo single day can't set your lineup stuff?
Oh, it's a joke. Like, when did that even happen? And why is it? It doesn't make any sense. It's also like you can't even do it inside, outside or inside of Canada. Like, it's only for the United States, I'm pretty sure is what I read.
And if we're being sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, it's just it sucks. Like, if you're a guy who, let's be honest, you have your league with your buddies, like your lower time invested leagues, we're just like, okay, I don't have a big bench. Just click that. We'll keep it going. I'll look at some trades or whatever. Now, just like I might just be one of the worst managers that exists if I have to do that every game. And then please, Yahoo, let me change my lineups before the puck drops. If I'm there at 7:01 and that game doesn't start till 7:20, and you're telling me I can't change my lineup, be better.
And you know what, Josh? Thank you for holding them accountable because honestly, in most leagues, I have switched over. Most of the groups that I'm in have switched over to Fantrax. You pay a little bit extra, but you get what you pay for. Yep. I like that we're calling out Yahoo. Let's call out some winners here. The Calgary Flames, speaking of call out, were called out by their goaltender. Dustin Wolf has been hung out to dry, so much so he might be a skeleton soon. This team has put up 1 goal in 4 straight games, and it's starting to get ugly in Calgary early. Maybe this just is indicative of a franchise that really has not done a lot to bolster this offense. However, when I look at Flames Jets, I look at Connor Hellebuck, I look at the last 10 games, even the last 3 games, This one screams under to me. I'm not a huge under better or proponent at all. So if you want to cop out a little bit and really put this into a juicier parlay, maybe you take it up to 6.5. It's probably going to be at 5.5. I still like this one at 5.5 on the under, Josh. I don't know how you feel about over-unders here, but I think this one screams under. Two good goalies, a team really struggling on the offensive end, and head-to-head lately, it's been under. I'm taking the under at 5.5 in this one.
This could close at -200. I know it's back-to-back. Eric Comrie will probably go today. I'm pretty sure Hellebuck gets to start on the Thursday slate. Was talking with Carlo Koliakvo on my show yesterday about you can't win a season in the first week, but you can certainly lose a season in the first week. Like Nashville last year. Look at Calgary. Calgary, I know they got the 1 point, but this is that game versus Montreal they had to have. And when you're getting called out by basically like a second-year goalie, I mean,
not even, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically, right? So there are some veteran guys on that team who don't want to hear that from that young person.
For sure.
Right? There was a lot of talk about Anthony Stolarz shouting at his team.
Yes.
He has more of a right. He's been there. He got the long-term contract. Dustin Wolf probably isn't going to get much of a rebound, and this team has shown that they can't rebound. I would put this as maybe one of the strongest plays I can think. I'm looking at -155. Yep. I would take the Jets in regulation. I would take the Jets at -1.5 at +160. I would take the Jets because in betting, there's not much difference between the -1.5 and -2.5. If you look to see if Calgary pulls goalies down to if they're very aggressive with 1 minute, if they do pull goalies down too. So I would ladder Winnipeg right there all the way from regulation to win by 2 and to win by 3. This is the most lopsided game of the year. I think Winnipeg is right up there with Carolina and Colorado, and Vegas is playing loose. But in terms of like all round best play, now that Jonathan Taves and that second line are going, this is one-sided.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about that incredible depth that Winnipeg has. Gustav Nyquist, Jonathan Taves, and of course, my boy Nino Niederreiter is just filling
that full line. PP2 correlated on them today.
All those peripherals are jumping off the page here. You got to hammer the puck line here.
And now you get out, and that pushes Iafallo down to the third line too, right? With like Nemestikov or what? No, there's an M in there somewhere in the middle of that name that I can't. That I can't fit in in there. But they're deep, and then you got your captain. What's his face on the fourth line? Lowry. Yeah, like it's a dangerous team, and I think it's one of the stronger. If they can stay deep, I think that's the team that can beat Florida if Florida's full down into the final series.
Definitely doesn't hurt that you got the number one goaltender.
We still haven't seen the best from Josh Morrissey on the back end too. Like he only has 2 points through 7-8 games so far this season, and that we're just waiting for him to absolutely explode and get going on the power play.
I don't think they've allowed more than 2 goals. In their home stretch, they've been elite.
So have you, Josh. We really appreciate you coming on big time. Hopefully we can do it again real soon, especially if we just strung together a whole bunch of winners. If I'm down loot, I'll send you another DM while I'm from the couch for all of your betting advice. However, sincerely, guys, check Josh out at covers.com. Check out his show. He is the betting guru. We hope to have you back again soon, Josh. Thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it, guys. Good luck with the rest of the week. Take care.
Make sure to follow him on Twitter as well, or on X, covers_Josh. He posts all the breakdowns and picks for every single night, not just NHL, MLB, and NFL as well. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And we'll see you back here Sunday for a waiver wire episode.
Go Jays, go.